sanctions. This is what they say. We'll see how they're going to go about enforcing these.
Okay, heads up now. Ish.
I'm good. I got you.
New crew. Check. Keeps on here. All right, we got everybody here. Guys, thank you very much for joining us today. We're going to be talking about the Iran Maximum Pressure Campaign. My name is Zach Nunn. I am privileged to be the RSC's chair for the Task Force on National Security. As an Air Force officer who is still serving, we have seen firsthand, many of us on this stage, both as friends and as professional operators, the threat that Iran poses. Everything from supporting and directing Islamic terrorist groups, being the #1 sponsor of state terrorism, including in my time where I flew operations the coast of Iran and supported directly the preparation of the battle space strikes that President Trump took against Soleimani, sending a direct signal to the IRGC. Over the past 4 years, though, we have had an absence of in holding Iran accountable. During this time, there have been over 105 attacks and 400 rockets and missiles fired at U.S. shipping. Billions of dollars in illicit oil sales, China, unrestricted progress or enrichment. Over $1 million funneled directly to Hamas, who has taken and held U.S. citizens as hostages, and Hezbollah, who has directly launched attacks on U.S. forces. Tragically, 3 U.S. servicemen in the alone. This horrific reality is a direct result of the Biden administration's failed ability to confront the largest sponsor of state terrorism in the world, to the tune of $80 billion per year. Today, along with my RSC colleagues, I am proud to say that the era of lax U.S. policy towards Iran is officially over. This morning, I introduced the Maximum Pressure Act, which includes the toughest sanctions package ever proposed by Congress. This legislation codifies President's maximum pressure campaign that he announced on February the 4th of 2025. The legislation aggressively targets Iran's illicit oil production, their direct funding of terrorism, both in the region and including at our southern border, and unrestricted nuclear ambition. Colleagues, it is far past time that the U.S. hold the Houthi rebels in Yemen accountable, that Hamas in Gaza no longer strike out at its allies, U.S. citizens, that Hezbollah in Lebanon and throughout the Middle East be held accountable, and most importantly, that the Ayatollah know the United States will no longer allow Iran's unadulterated terrorist activities. For this, we all applaud President Trump for his leadership for this long overdue change to U.S. foreign policy, particularly in the Middle East. So let us all be clear. The U.S. is the global arbitrator for peace, while Iran holds the title of world's largest sponsor of terrorism. The fact to be more clear on this. Today marks the beginning of a new U.S. foreign policy that restores peace through strength, both in the United States and all the way to the Middle East, by leveraging all the tools of statecraft to put America in the driver's seat of our global security. My friends, I am privileged watching my 6, our very own chairman, August Pfluger, an Air Force veteran, F-22 driver, and now our leader at RSC. Mr. Pfluger.
Thank Congressman Nunn for his leadership, Security Task Force, and I'd also like to thank Representative Ben Cline, who is the vice chairman of the Republican Study Committee and has pushed very hard Both of these gentlemen have pushed very hard for this package for fairness and to right the wrongs of the last 4 years. This is the toughest Iran sanction package ever, as Representative Nunn said. The Enforcing Maximum Pressure, which is holding Iran accountable RSC initiative, is a coordinated slate of complementary bills that will put America in the driver's seat on these dealings. What you will today from our colleagues are individuals that come together to place pressure back on Iran, something that there was lacking for the last 4 years. As part of this campaign, I'm introducing the No Iranian Energy Act and reintroducing a bill to remove the sanctions waiver authority to permanently freeze all Iranian sanctioned assets, which will cut off Iran's financial lifeline. And again, President Trump hasn't just earned our gratitude, unwavering support as he revives pressure campaigning on leaders, the world's most dangerous sponsors of terrorism, state sponsors of terrorism. And the Iranian regime isn't just a threat. Their leaders are a genocidal death cult. Make no mistake about it. They view Israel's destruction beginning of their evil plans. And let's contrast what's happening today with what has happened over the last 4 years. In March of 2023, President Biden enabled Iran to access $10 billion in frozen assets under the guise of humanitarian purposes. On September 11th, 2023, a date that we owe as a tragic date, not in the United States of America, but around the world, the Biden administration approved a $6 billion transfer of frozen Iranian funds from South Korea to Qatar. And throughout 2024, even October 7th, the Biden administration renewed waivers allowing Iraq to purchase energy from Iran. I mean it seriously. Let's think about that for a moment. Those are just 3 of the many examples of the negligent actions taken by the last administration. To say is, thank goodness we have a leader back in the White House. President Trump has taken many decisive actions in the first few months of his administration to put a halt, and to prevent chaos, the terrorism, and the state terrorism throughout the region and throughout the world that Iran sponsors. And we're not going to watch from the sidelines. RSC is taking a stance on this. Let me be clear. Iran's terrorist proxies will face overwhelming consequences for attacking American ships in international waters. And as President Trump said yesterday, the choice for the Houthis is stop shooting at U.S. ships and we'll stop shooting at you. Otherwise, we have only just begun, and the real pain is yet to come for both the Houthis and their sponsors in Iran. So the Republican Study Committee, just talking tough here, we're delivering a clear message to Iran. America is back. Your terror funding days are numbered, and your regime will face consequences that even the Ayatollah cannot pray away. Thank you all for being here. I'd like to introduce my good friend from the state of Florida, Representative Greg Stubbe.
Thanks, August, and it's an honor to be with each of my colleagues up here. It is time for Washington to hold Iran accountable once as the largest state sponsor of terror in the world. And I'm honored that one of my bills, the Iranian Terror Prevention Act, that will codify and implement President Trump's recent national security memorandum imposing maximum pressure on the Iran. And when my bill passes, the State Department will be directed by Congress divest and designate 29 terrorist organizations linked to Tehran as foreign terrorist organizations, along with any entity affiliated with the IRGC. As someone who served in the Middle East, who served in Iraq and the war on terror and Operation Freedom, I think I'm shared with a lot of veterans up here who all served. We know firsthand Iran's support of Shia militia groups, and we, as the United States of America, stand strong against that. We have to freedom, and we have to stand for righteousness and not terrorism. And today, this bill brings justice back to the United States. Claudia?
I just want to say thank you so much to Chairman and everyone for being here, my colleagues, and being such strong leaders on this issue. This is a really important initiative from the Republican Study Committee, and as you heard Chairman Pfluger talking about a compilation including Mr. Stubbe's bill and other. And as we saw under the Biden administration, the Iran regime was more emboldened. They bolstered its terrorist proxies around the world, which we've seen in real time, training, funding, and intelligence as well, all while expanding its nuclear stockpile, which is of great concern to the United States. In contrast, in his 100 days in office, President Trump has taken decisive action to counter Iran's malign influence by issuing National Security Presidential Memorandum Number 2 to reimpose the maximum pressure campaign that we saw under the first Biden or Trump admin under the leadership of Secretary Powell. Now with the United States once again taking the lead to charge to counteract with our allies, our E3 allies with France and the UK. Our allies must falsely invoke what I call the snapback on Iran before the ability to do so expires this October. So to send a strong, unified message from Congress, I, alongside Congressman Gottheimer in the House and seconds we introduced House Resolution 139, a resolution calling on the United Kingdom, France, and Germany to initiate the snapback sanction regime on Iran under the United Nations Security Council Resolution 2231 back in 2015. So invoking snapback sanctions will restore the sanctions on Iran that were lifted by the Obama administration's failed Iran nuclear deal, including export controls, travel bans, asset freezes, and other restrictions on those involved in Iranian nuclear and missile activity. This bicameral and bipartisan bill sends questions to the E3 needs to step up and stop enabling nuclear expansion by the Iranian regime. It's time for snapback sanctions now. And I'm grateful again to leadership, Congressman Flew and others, congressmen, our veterans behind us, many of whom served in this. Maximum pressure is necessary. I applaud the president for doing this, and it's really important that we do that. And get across the world to recognize the great danger of Iran having a nuclear and making sure our partners join with us and again advocate for snapback sanctions. And it's with great pleasure that I introduce our chair, Brian Stile, chair of the administration committee, and talk about his bill. This is me. I'm not sure.
Thank you, Representative Tenney. Thank you for your leadership, Chair Pfluger, Vice Chair Klein, Congressman Nunn. It's absolutely essential that we work to hold Iran accountable and enforce the maximum pressure campaign. The legislation that we're talking about today is essential across the board. The package as a whole is, as Chairman said, the strongest package put forward. And essential that we do it is Iran is the lead state sponsor of terrorism around the globe. I want to talk about one bill in particular, the No Sanctions Relief for Terrorism Act. Goes back to a failed policy of the Biden from 2023. Late 2023, the Biden administration waived a sanctions waiver and provided access to Iran to $10. This was a mistake by the Biden administration. It emboldened Iran and provided funds that we know Iran will ultimately use to sponsor terrorism around the globe and attack our allies. The bill prevents fusions from being able to do Biden administration did. It prevents waivers for sanctions unless they can show that the state that's receiving that waiver has actually ended the funding of terrorism. The good news is President Trump is in office. He's rolled back these terrible Biden administration policies and has moved us in the right direction to make sure that no future administration makes the mistake of the Biden administration. So I'm calling for support to the no sanctions for terrorist acts and applaud all of my colleagues here who are standing up for freedom and liberty. I have the honor of introducing the person from South Carolina, my friend Joe Wilson.
Thank you. And ladies and gentlemen and friends of a free Iran. What an honor to be here, and I appreciate our colleague from Wisconsin. What an important state Wisconsin is today. Appreciate his leadership, and then grateful for the leadership of Chairman August Pfluger, Ben Klein as the vice chair, and Zach Nunn leading the effort for national security with the Republican Study Committee. And I'm here today to introduce three pieces of support President Donald's efforts to have the agenda to counter the brutal regime in Tehran that is victimizing the people of Iran. With that in mind, I am just so grateful that President Courageous is so important to stop the ability of Iran to have a nuclear capability, which is being assisted by war criminal Putin. And so over and over again, and this is in the legislation I have, the Maximum Support Act with Congressman Jimmy Panetta of California, would support the ongoing efforts of Iranian people fighting for freedom and democracy by empowering them the Iranian regime. There are support for technology for the Iranian people to get around the internet restrictions by the regime. Maximum pressure regime must be coupled with maximum support to help them have a free Iran. As we saw in Syria, the more brutal the dictator, the weaker the regime. And we saw Bashar al-Assad flee very appropriately. And so the message that the people in the Middle East truly want to seek freedom, and freedom will ultimately prevail. Secondly, I'm grateful to introduce the Free Iraq from Iran Act. I've had 2 sons serve in Iraq to help liberate that country, and so it had to me to see Iran's interference with the people to run their own country. Unfortunately, the Iranian regime has infiltrated Iraq, fulfilling their malign agenda through influence and control of the Iraqi government, judiciary, and security forces. This bill will counter the Iranian regime network in Iraq and support the Iraqi people. And another bill that's very important: America must counter the network of Hezbollah, working with cartels in the Western Hemisphere. It's that there must be no hemisphere act to expel terrorists smuggling drugs, human trafficking, and intelligence operations. And so, working together, I'm just so for the leadership of the Republican Study Committee. And hey, now I get to superstar who's returned to Congress. He had a brief interlude, and now he's back. Marlon Stutzman, all the way from Indiana.
Oh, wow, what a great introduction! And now the press. Thank you to colleagues with the RSC and Chairman Pfluger and Vice Chairman Klein and Zach. Thank you for your leadership on this. You know, there's so many days we come to Congress and we think about the job ahead of us and what we're here to do. But we all know at the end of the day, we're here to make America a strong country for our children and grandchildren. And that's why I'm proud to stand here today to support the maximum pressure bills. It's no secret that Iran's regime poses a direct threat, not just to the stability of the Middle East, but also to the United States of America. America has the ability to walk softly, carry a big stick. And this is the stick. Iran does not ever learn. They are going to continually be the terrorist supporters that we have seen them for years, and they will only be able to by having our allies put tremendous pressure on them with economic sanctions. And we know that if they have the ability to sell their oil around the world, that's only going to continue to fund more terrorism. And we need to put a stop to support the Maximum Pressure Act, a critical step in safeguarding American interest and global security. And as we all know, they are going to continue, and we actually have a strong leader now. We've stumbled over the last 4 years in our position in the world with dealing with Iran, and they advantage of that. And I am proud to stand here with my colleagues to put the line in the sand and know that our president is going to do the right thing and leading and making sure that America is safe, that the Middle East is stable, and that we're going to stand with our ally Israel and others in the Middle East so that Iran can't do more destructive damage. So thank you again, and it's my honor to introduce freshman colleague, Mr. Troy Downs.
Thank you. And first, I thank Representatives Nunn, Pfluger, and Klein for their leadership, and for all of my colleagues here for standing up for what's right, and also for the Republican study. So RSC's effort to identify President Trump's maximum pressure campaign and hold Iran accountable is incredibly important. There's a lot of us up here who have served, seen this firsthand, as Representative Stubbe put. But put plainly, these efforts could not be timely. On the other side of the world, Iran-backed Houthis in Yemen are attacking U.S. ships and disrupt global trade, while the Ayatollah's regime looks to step away from the negotiating table on a nuclear deal. But here in Washington, Republicans in Congress could not be more serious about imposing the toughest ever sanctions on Iran to thwart the development of its nuclear program and to dissuade its support for across the globe. In the face of Iranian threats, we're showcasing once again that when we work together in lockstep with President Trump, we can real and lasting pain for America's enemies and those who wish our allies harm. Thank you again to my colleagues on the Republican Study Committee for your leadership. God bless our troops. God bless America. And I'm going to yield to my Air Force veteran Don Bacon.
Thanks for being here. Most of the salient points have been made, so I won't repeat all of them. But I do like to share a personal experience. I deployed to Iraq in 2008. I came there during this, losing about 120 troops a month. At that point was the peak of that fight. But as time went on, we whittled down Al-Qaeda, and the bigger threat became the Shia militias that were targeting Americans, and they became the biggest threat at the end. And these Shia militias were armed, funded, and led by Iranian IRD. We lost 609 Americans from those Shia militias that were directed by Iran. 609 families that were lost a son or daughter, husband, wife, or mom or dad. That's a lot. We should never forget it. Let's stop there. We also lost sailors on the USS Cole from Iran-run terrorists. We lost those Marines at the towers in Beirut, the dorms, Iranian terrorists. And Khobar, we lost airmen there that were killed by a terrorist that was Iranian run. My friend Tim Hahn was killed in that attack. America should not forget what Iran has done, and we should not until this regime is kicked out. It's kicked out. We know that if Iran gains a nuclear weapon, it will become an existential threat to Israel and our country. We cannot let that happen. So we want to have our foot on their neck economically and try to prevent every penny coming in or going out. With that, I get to introduce my Dave Joyce.
Thank you all, and good afternoon. As has been stated, for decades, Iran has been both the largest sponsor of terrorism in this world, and the administration emboldened this regime by tying Iran's threats against American citizens and U.S. interests. President Trump will end these threats now. Full stop. He understands allowing Iran to obtain nuclear weapons is an acceptable risk. The administration and Congress, as you can see, are going to work together to ensure that we take an aggressive approach against Iran and its influence. America will always against the sponsorship of terror violence that targets our citizens, our allies like Israel. I look forward to leading the charge with my colleagues here today, and I now look forward to, as we all do, to answering any questions you may have.
Go ahead, and we'll that is a subject matter expert, if you have specific. Let me just say real quick, the people you see here come from different committees. Everybody serves on a different committee here in Congress, not on the Armed Service or the Intel or the National Security Committees. But what you see today is a Republican Study Committee putting national security back into the national dialogue. It's a conservative word. We believe in national security. We believe in protecting Americans everywhere. Couldn't be prouder of the members that are on the stage and some that are not, that also have an interest in this. And with that,
Thank you, Congressman. So it has made little progress in codifying the president's executive orders. Are you worried at all that Republicans might be falling behind and really cementing trust?
No, not at all. And in fact, just ago, we stood here with RSC set in stone policy package of 8 different pieces of legislation that did exactly that. They're advocating for the executive orders, for the codifications of the executive orders, for the agenda that we know is. We're working very closely with the White House, with the administration, and as we've heard from leadership in the last, in fact, just as recently as today, that they are working very diligently with the committees of jurisdiction to make sure that we do codify. I think you see that with the CRAs that are being passed, some of which signed into law, that are doing the things that President Trump said he would do. We're all looking forward to getting to that reconciliation page so we can further the codification. Does anybody else have any words on that?
My name is Arash. I'm with International TV. 2 questions about this package that you have introduced. Number one, the Ayatollah was speaking 2 days ago in Iran, the month of Ramadan. And what he said about sitting down with President Trump in negotiations is that if the Islamic Republic in fact sits with the United States, it shows its weakness, and therefore you and your colleagues, the Zionist regime, would increase the pressure on the regime. So that's why he doesn't want to directly talk to the United States. I want to hear your reaction on his thoughts. And also yesterday, his advisor, Ali Larijani, told the Iranian press that if Iran is being bombed by the United States, it would leave him with no choice but to march toward a nuclear bomb. What do you think about these two questions?
Iran has no leverage. Iran has no friends. Iran is a pariah. Iran is by themselves. And the only choice they have from President Trump to make sure that they never attain a nuclear weapon. That is the only choice that they have. This package, the strongest Iran sanction and security package delivered, does exactly. It sends a message to Iran, to the Ayatollah, that the Iranian people are not the target. It's the leadership that wants to gain a nuclear weapon to continue that pariah state of chaos and terrorism the world. So they have two choices. One, they can make sure that they announce loud and clear to the world that they will not attain a nuclear weapon, or they face the consequences. And I think they're lucky that they have somebody who is so Trump, who has delivered an off-ramp for them. If I were them, I would make a choice of announcing loud and clear that they'll not attain a nuclear weapon. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Nunn.
I think August said it directly. Let's look at the situation here. The Ayatollah has tried to have conversations with the United States in the past, and the Ayatollah has failed. The Ayatollah has been a coward every moment where he could have done the right thing. The Ayatollah has chosen to punish the Persian Farsi people in a massacre that has existed more than 45 years. The Ayatollah is the one who is pushing on towards the precipice. And the Ayatollah is the one who's not only destabilizing the Middle East, but is the same entity who's attacked U.S. forces, and now shows up on the southern border of the United States and threatens America's nationality.
If I may follow up on that question, what do you think about the advisor of Ayatollah, who yesterday, as I said, he was saying that if Iran is attacked directly, it would change its nuclear doctrine.
Right? Yeah. Right now, Tehran has a very clear off-ramp, and that's to enter into negotiations in good faith with President Trump, who has laid out not only a roadmap for the Persian Farsi people to be successful, but for Iran to have a future here. And it simply means stop funding terrorism, stop avoiding the sanctions regime, come to the table, de-escalate, and end a nuclear regime that ends in death for potentially hundreds of thousands of people in the Middle East.
Let me just add.
Yeah.
No one really believes that Iran's not seeking a nuclear weapon right now. Okay. No one believes that Iran is not seeking a nuclear weapon now. They're on that pursuit, and we got to stop it. And for them to say if you guys are going to pursue it, it's they're not being truthful.
But they're saying they're going to.
They're doing it now. Know it. They're pursuing a nuclear weapon, and we got to stop it.
As further verification, not only are they pursuing a nuclear weapon to vaporize Israel and ultimately the United States, developing ICBM can only be for one purpose, and that is to deliver a nuclear attack against the American people. And so that's why I'm so grateful that we have a president who understands peace through strength. And President Trump has been very clear, and that is that it's very simple, and that is stop the development of nuclear capability and then provide absolute verification that all has, and there must be verification, not charades we've had with the previous administrations. And so we have Iran can have a bright future, stopping the development of new weapons, stopping the development of CBMs, and then work with the wonderful other countries of the Middle East. And we see such an example. Now Syria, the dictator's gone. He's in Moscow, Putin. And so the message here that indeed for the people of Iran, what a bright future they can have without the dictatorship.
Look, let me add before you go to her, is you're afraid that Iran is saying that if President Trump acts, that they will get in high gear. They're not going to have a chance. Let me tell you, when President Trump decides to act, things happen. Ask Soleimani how that works. Okay. To the people of Iran, Maryam Rajavi and others, there's hope coming. So we need to be full of hope, because if and when President Trump decides to act, you can kiss the regime's goodbye of the Ayatollah. I yield back.
We've seen, Kilmany Dukart with you. We've seen growing discontent in Iran over the economic situation right now. If the U.S. intelligence community is saying that Iran isn't building a bomb, and I'm DNI Gabbard's comments last week during Dimoni, is the goal of these sanctions primarily regime change?
I think that is something that only the president can answer. What we're doing here is to compile a suite of legislative action, different legislative bills that put pressure on Iran to stop doing what we know they've been doing for years, which is seeking a nuclear weapon. And I think utilizing intelligence, the negotiations that President Trump has referred to, will hopefully resolve some of the issues that we've seen, and will hopefully result in a positive action.
What's your level of confidence, though, that this package is going to work? We saw during the first Trump administration a very tough pressure campaign, and in fact, Iran accelerated their program.
Look, this is a different time. It's a different day. It's a different era. We have 4 years of weakness. The Iranian regime doesn't respect anything but strength. Really, the only thing that we can come to the table with, and I think the Republican Study Committee, a conservative group, believes in deterrence, but you can't have deterrence without credibility. That's credibility of our military, which we are regaining, and it's credibility on the legislative side with different bills that offer the president tools that he can use, tools that the administration can use. Gone are the days of having weakness, which invited aggression, weakness which unfortunately resulted in the further decay of Yemen, more transport of different precision-guided munitions through Iraq, through the Levant, through Syria, into places like Lebanon. And all of those things should be considered as halted because of what President Trump is doing. And I'll yield to anybody else.
Very, very quickly. Yeah. I think we're in about 2 from where we were under the first Trump administration. We've seen directly the lack of enforcement of sanctions that are already in the book. Billions of dollars, tens of billions of dollars being paid by China for illicit oil on tankers that can be spotted on a map that are not being stopped. We've seen Iran its best rebut. 3 weapon systems fired at Israel. And who stood in the breach? The Israelis, led by the United States, backed up by Britain, France, Jordan, and others who came to the table to collectively Iran accountable. We have seen the RSC decimated. We have seen Hezbollah pushed back in the north. We've seen Hamas nearly obliterated from the map, and we have seen a ragtag group of terrorists being striked repeatedly here in only the week. Something that didn't happen for days. The entire suite of statecraft now is being brought to bear against Tehran, and it's more than, I would say, a pushback here. It is cutting off their very ability to maneuver in this space. The Ayatollah wants regime, and the Ayatollah needs to come to the table and have a conversation about a future for the Iranian people, not be trying to dig centrifuges in the middle of a desert, because our allies and the United States will be very quick to end that campaign. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.